Welcome to HireSmart Virtual Assistant's newest edition of Company Spotlight. We celebrate the best in our clients and want to recognize them for the leaders that they are. We hope you enjoy listening in and that you're able to pick up some words of wisdom that you can apply in your own business. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. My name is Ann Lackey. I'm the co-founder of HireSmartVAs, and today I have a fabulous guest. I'm so excited to have Bess McCreary Wozniak. Oh, that's always hard for me to say. Did I say it right, Bess?
You were very close. Wozniak.
Wozniak. All right. So one of the most interesting and exciting things to talk about with Bess today is she is a fourth generation property manager. She's worked in the family business for a long time. She started as an administrative assistant in 2010 and kind of worked her way up. She is the vice president of McCreary Realty Management. And, you know, Bess has kind of an interesting background. I'm going to let her speak a little bit to that. I don't want to take all of her thunder away, but she has more credentials than you can count. And she is an amazing person as well as a property manager. So Bess, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me, what is it like to work in a fourth generation business in general? Like, I can work with my family. Of course, I work with my husband, but I don't know that I can work with like my whole family for that long.
Yeah.
So share with me a little bit about the pluses and minuses of what that's been like.
So right now, actually, it is just me and my dad, Michael, who are related. Everybody else in our business is just like family. But prior, when I first started working kind of on and off in between my acting gigs, because that was my former career. So in between acting gigs, I'd come back to Atlanta and I just kind of work as an assistant here at the office. My aunt was still working at the office, so I was working with her as well. And when my dad had joined the company, it was his grandfather, his 4 uncles, his mom, his dad, then his sister joined, and then later on his brother-in-law joined, and it's just kind of been, and he's worked with cousins and stuff too. So, I mean, it's kind of been an influx of family members. There for a while, my sister worked with us as an administrative assistant when I moved into a property management role, and working with her was great. It's definitely a different dynamic, and you have to have a certain personality. I think as you and Mark see working together, you balance each other out. And I think you definitely have to understand when we're at work, this is the type of relationship we have. And when we're outside of work, this is the type of relationship we have. Now, sometimes those lines do coincide, especially with me and my dad. I'll walk into his office and I'll say, okay, dad hat, or I'll say president hat, you know. I need to talk to you as my boss. I need to talk to you as my dad, whichever one it is. So we've definitely worked on balancing that as well.
So, okay, this is awesome. I love that. You know, so everybody's still family friendly though, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Did you know for certain that was what you were that was your legacy, or that was what you were going to do? Or were you really kind of thinking, I'm going to do this acting thing, I'm not going to be in the business? Kind of share with me about your personal journey of making those decisions.
Yeah, so my dad was always great with us growing up. So I have an older brother and a younger sister, and all 3 of us, he never pushed the family business on. And honestly, he never originally intended to be in it either. And I don't know how many people really wake up and say, I want to be a property manager when I grow up, you know? Yeah. Well, and because it's just not something that is glorified in any way as you're growing up when you're a kid. You know, you want to be a policeman or a doctor or a firefighter or something, you know, an astronaut, you know, something that's going to get you notoriety in some way, shape, or form. You don't realize that there are other careers that you can get notoriety in or be successful in a different way. And so with me, I fell in love with acting. Actually really fell in love with music when I was very young. Thought that that's where my path was going to go, was with singing and music performance. Then kind of fell into acting in high school got cast in a specific show, decided that's what I wanted to major in college. So I went to college and I got my degree in theater, and still continued singing and doing musicals and whatnot. But once I graduated from college, I kind of fell into children's theater. That's where I started getting cast a lot, was working with children, and doing some directing, doing some education, and still performing at the same time. There was one company I worked with where we actually directed and performed with the children. So that was a lot of fun. And like I said, in between those acting gigs, I would come home to Atlanta, and my dad always had at least half days that he could give me, just, some work that he could.
Always work to do.
Yes, there's always work to do. And when my husband and we met in theater, and working in one of our theaters, one of the theater companies we worked with in Ohio. When my husband and I had decided we wanted to settle down, have a family, we really thought long and hard about what that reality would look like if we continued acting. If we continued in theater, where it's a little bit less of a sure thing, as far as where your job is, how much you're going to be getting, and how long that contract is. Because the contracts can be, I had one contract that was only 6 weeks long. I had one contract that was 9 months long. So it just kind of depends on the company that you get with and what kind of work you're doing. And then we were at the time long distance too. He was in New York, I was in Atlanta. And so we just kind of decided, I said, I actually like what I'm doing here at McCreary Realty, and I think that I could be good at it. And I think that my theater training and working with children can kind of coincide with some of what we do here in property management.
Exactly.
Seeing new challenges and new things hitting you in the face every day. So yeah, I talked to my dad about it. I said, I want to give this a try. And just the more and more I worked in it, and the more education I got within it. I got my license very shortly after he and I talked, and then started getting involved with NARPM and IRM, and then also joined the Realtors organization. So yeah, and now I've gotten all my designations, and it's been a lot of fun, actually. Surprising.
So I think improvisation is probably a skill most of us have that we just don't get paid for.
Yes,
So
exactly.
So I want to talk just a minute, because your dad is an icon in the industry. He's very well respected, been around a very long time. Truly, he's a man that I admire and look up to, even though I've been in the business 19 years myself,
Yeah.
So how is that? I won't say that you're under his shadow, because I think you truly have your own, like, sunshine there. But I do think probably early in your career, it was probably a little more challenging or difficult. Kind of share with me a little bit about how that all worked, and what he did to elevate you to be in the position that you are. Because I do think that is part of it too. So it's like, you can stand alone, but you have to have that support of somebody who's okay with letting you have some of that glory, right? So
absolutely. So as you know, he's an educator in our industry, and he is just a natural educator. That's originally what he was going to college for when he met my mom, and was going for a degree in music education. And didn't end up finishing that, but education has always been something he's been very passionate about. So having him here in the office has just been wonderful, because he's a wealth of knowledge. Yes. I wish I could just download his information on property management right to my brain. But one thing that he has always been a proponent of, because he's an educator, is continuing for any of his staff, really, but definitely me in the position that I was moving towards, continuing my education, getting involved in the local organizations, and making a name for myself within those organizations. Because there for a long time, it was, oh, you're Michael McCreary's daughter. Like, it was never, oh, you're Bess. Right. I didn't have my own identity there for 3 or 4 years maybe, and that was okay. I understood. I'm very proud of my dad. It was hard in the day-to-day work here in our office, because we'd have clients that would call and say, well, no, I need to talk to your dad. And I'm like, I'm not a child, you know?
No. It's hard though. I mean, interestingly enough, so most of you guys know I work with my husband, Mark,
Mhm.
and we're seen as the dynamic duo. Like literally if one of us shows up someplace without the other, they're like, where's you? And we're like, well, I'm here.
Yes,
So I
yes.
kind of get that. Just
Yep. And I still get that, I still, recently at the Southern States Conference, within 2 or 3 hours of us opening up registration, I had 15 questions of, where's your dad?
you don't expect him to be at those kind of events.
Exactly, and it's very common for him to be at them because usually he's teaching or he's leading a breakout session. But I would just say, well, I left him at home to run the business. Somebody's got to.
Which is great. And one of the things I love about both you and your dad is just your gentle spirit, and you're always happy. I mean, I'm sure you're not always happy, but
Right.
you certainly, you've had your challenges, medically as well. I don't think that that's anything off topic, hopefully not for you.
No.
And so, we watched you through some of that, and I don't know if you want to talk about it or not, but I mean, I think it's your positive attitude, and both of you and your dad are just amazing to be around. And that's why y'all are kind of infectious, and I love it. So do you want to talk a little bit about that little bump in your road there and how you overcame it?
So it's actually been kind of a long series of bumps, because there for a while my husband and I were trying to get pregnant and struggled with that, and had fertility issues that were all on my end as far as hormones. And I'm not shy when it comes to talking about this kind of stuff, just because I think it needs to be talked about more. I think a lot of people's struggles and challenges don't get talked about enough. And that's how we are able to relate to each other. And that's how we're able to see each other all as human. So, we struggled with that. We had a miscarriage with our first pregnancy, and then I had to have a surgery in order for me to be able to carry a child at all. So had that surgery, and now we have my son Declan. Yes, little Spitfire. Yes. And so then, but shortly after he was born, I noticed a very swollen lymph node on the side of my neck. And I was like, well, that's not right. Something's wrong there. I need to go to the doctor. Nobody should see, you feel your lymph nodes and you can feel when they get a little swollen, but I saw this one. That's how swollen it was. And so it took a lot of biopsies, there was a preliminary surgery that had removal of some of the lymph nodes that were biopsied. Overall, it took 1 year and 8 months for them to diagnose, and they finally found that it was thyroid cancer. And that was February of 2018. So we're just a little over 1 year past now. And I had to have surgery to remove my entire thyroid, and they removed a total of 110 lymph nodes from the front and sides of my neck. Wow. I still have a bunch of lymph nodes. You have so many lymph nodes in your body, you have no idea.
Because I would have thought that was a lot. Like I would have thought there was 10 left.
And in the meantime, I had been volunteering with both NARPM National and the local board here in Atlanta, and working on Southern States Conference with Megan as the chair that year. I was doing marketing, and I had to step back from my national committee that I was on just because it was too much at that point. I had to be out of the office for 2 weeks for recovery from my surgery, and then I had some periodic times where I had to be isolated for my radioactive iodine treatment. So that was only 3 days each time I had to be isolated, but multiple doctor's appointments and whatnot. And honestly, and I've had a scan, and I am cancer-free as of now. So, yes. And so I still have my doctor's appointments every 3 months, and I will for the next 4 to 5 years. And then it'll be kind of like every 6 months for a little while, and then hopefully only yearly after that. But, I've gone through a lot in my life prior to that 4 to 5 year period of fertility and losing a child and surgery and then having a child and then cancer and all of that went with that. I dealt with a lot personally when I was young, and I think if I hadn't gone through what I went through when I was young, I think I would have struggled a little bit more in these last 4 to 5 years. But having a support system in my dad, I mean, he's an amazing support system. My husband, my other immediate family that I have, my staff here, like I said, they're like family. Our bookkeeper, she's known me since I was 6 months old. Yeah, so I mean, she's like an aunt to me. And then we have other staff that have been here 12 years. So I've known them the whole time I've been working here as well. It was just like an extension of family to me. And then I've got a group of friends that are really close, and it just all was very, very supportive. And when I went to NARPM and said, hey, guys, this is going on with me, I'm going to do my best to keep my word that I said I would be volunteering for these positions, but there will be times that I will not be able to do things. And I also didn't know what this cancer story would look like for me either. You know, I didn't know how the treatments would affect me. It's very different than chemo, which most cancer patients have to deal with. This particular type of cancer, there wasn't a chemo treatment. It was this isolation and radioactive iodine. So I was radioactive for a while. But it actually didn't affect me too bad. I was pleasantly surprised. And my doctors were very positive about everything too. So that really helped. I think just having the positive support system really, really helped me. And I'm also just of the personality that's like, life goes on. And it doesn't stop because I had this thing happen to me. So I got to figure out how to pull up my bootstraps and keep going.
So you talked a lot about your staff. And so I want to transition a little bit into this because you've been a client of mine for a little bit at this point. And of course, we've known each other for, I don't know. I don't even know when I first met you. I'm sure it's
I know, yeah.
somewhere, but we've known each other for at least a few years. We'll just and so, you know, in the beginning, it was, as it is with most of my clients, like this virtual thing is very scary. Like, I'm not sure that this is right for me, but you guys had a situation where it made sense at that point to at least experiment.
Yes, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about, you know, why you finally made the decision to try virtual staff, and how has it been for you since you brought on board your virtual professional?
So there were multiple different factors involved, as you know. We were in a position where we lost yet another maintenance coordinator for multiple different reasons. We've gone through maintenance coordinators. It seems like we can't seem to hold on to one for more than 2, maybe 3 years. And so, you know, as a property manager, the maintenance is the bane of our existence. And it's a tough position to fill. We also, it's not a position that needs to be licensed within our company and the way we're structured. And it's more administrative duties than it is you know, like I said, having to be licensed or any managerial type position. So I went to my dad and I said, hey, we need to come up with something fast. We're in our busy season. We need something. And I don't have time to be both for an extended period of time. I just can't do that anymore with the way our office has been structured. And I said, we've got to figure something out. And I said, you know, what would you think about using HireSmart virtual assistants and having a virtual assistant? Because that is something where it's not a team. We've used virtual assistants with another company in the past where it's a team of people that work overnight to do some administrative tasks. And I said, but you know, this is one where we'll have somebody our hours, and he or she will be designated to our team or to our office. And they'll be a McCreary Realty management staff member at that point. And I said, so I think it's worth a try. And we went with you, and we hired Kathy after that, after your vetting stuff, which was great. Having just the 3 to interview, and all 3 of them were great options. And you know, in the end, we thought Kathy might be the best fit, and so far everything has been working great with her. She's like a go-getter. She's so eager to learn, and always thankful whenever we teach her a new thing, because as you know, maintenance is a learning curve here in the States, let alone for somebody that doesn't live in the States and doesn't know how our houses even really look necessarily, let alone how they're built. And so she actually sent a picture at one point through our chat system saying, "Is this a light bulb?" And it was a picture of a light fixture. And so she was like, "I've never seen one that looks like this." And we said, you know, we explained, "Oh no, that's the light fixture that goes around the bulb," you know, and showed her how we found some pictures that showed her how it looks. And she was like, "Oh, that makes so much more sense. I've never seen anything like that." And so it's stuff that we take for granted a little bit, but it's kind of nice too, because now I'm learning a little bit along with her too. You know, I'm getting a little bit more in depth about how things work, how systems work within a home. And then, you know, of course, each home being very different as well. But yeah, it's been a really great thing for our office. I think one of the hardest things for us to adapt with it is that we do live answer our phones here. So not having that additional body here in our office has been a little bit different. But we have her phone set up, so we're able to transfer phone calls to her for anybody that calls in for her as well. So that's really helpful. And, you know, we're considering what we want to do when our front desk assistant, she's gotten her license and we're going to be moving her into a property management position. We're considering what we want to do with our office structure since Kathy has worked out so well. Do we want to do another virtual assistant?
Yes.
Or, yeah, right?
Yes. No, I'm just kidding. Certainly.
Or do we want to do a virtual assistant and still have somebody in the office? That kind of thing. So we're going to actually be talking about that here in the next couple of months.
Well, it's so interesting because, you know, you started on the maintenance side. I started on the leasing side for my business. And I can tell you, I love the fact that our phone never rings. So, Bonnie takes them all. I don't have to worry about it. I don't hear it. It doesn't matter to me. Like, so anyway, it's, again, that's the one thing I love about virtual staff is you can craft it any way you want. Like whatever your personal pain point is, or whatever your business problem is, you can fix that.
Yep.
As long as it can be done with a computer and a phone. So what was your I know we need to wrap up here in a few minutes, but what was your biggest aha moment? You're like, wow, I didn't realize this when using virtual staff. What was kind of your, whoa, wow, that's awesome.
I think one of the biggest things for us is that we're getting more productivity than we had from any staff member in that position here in our office previously, as far as the follow-up with our vendors. So specifically, obviously, on the maintenance side. So I think that's one of the biggest things. And now it's a little bit of a learning curve for our vendors. They're having to adapt to the way they've been working for some of our vendors 20 years, because we work with third-party vendors, and some of them we've been working with for 20 to 25 years. Some of them not quite as long, but still a long period of time. And so they get used to one way of doing things. And, you know, it can be hard to teach an old dog new tricks sometimes. So we're having to adapt. And we also recently adopted a new maintenance coordination automation system. We did that before bringing on Kathy. And so since she is virtual and they can't just come into our office and talk to a maintenance coordinator anymore, they are learning that they're having to go through that automation system, which we had been wanting them to do in the first place anyways, which is why we adopted it. So if anything, the aha moment has been, oh my gosh, we can actually do all this and have record of it now. Because it has to be that way, because they don't have another choice. And then on top of it, the productivity, we're seeing faster turnaround times on all of our maintenance because Kathy's bugging the heck out of our vendors.
You know, it's interesting. A lot of people say, well, you know, my virtual staff, is so much more productive than anybody I've had. And they don't realize that they're working in the middle of the night. There's no distraction. There is no water cooler. There is no excuse for stuff not getting done, because they might as well work and move it along, because it just makes their night go faster, or their day, or whatever. So kind of to wrap up, share with us just some, if you had to give some words of wisdom to some people that are considering our services. Because I think, my job as also as an educator, to share that this is an available platform for people. But a lot of people are nervous or scared. And I remember what that's like. Honestly, I think back to 5+ years ago, and I think, man, how far I've come, but I can still remember that angst. What would you share to a colleague that is thinking about or considering it, to know? What would you tell them?
Yeah. There does have to be a little bit of prep involved, as far as your systems and the way you do things. Just making sure that you know what you want them to do initially. And for us, with Kathy in particular, it's been, well, with us, not really Kathy, it's totally us. But it's been, we do one thing and then we get her like proficient on that, and then we train her on another aspect of her job. So she's been getting eased into her position, which is, I think, nice for her too, because there is so much education involved in the maintenance side. But gosh, to a colleague that's nervous about it, I just say, just do it. Just do it, because good Lord, I was very nervous about it. And mostly what I was nervous about is not feeling prepared. I wasn't feeling prepared enough to train her properly. And what if we were failing her? And I didn't want to fail her, which she also felt I didn't want to fail McCreary, And so I think we have found, this symbiotic relationship where we can go back and forth, and she asks a question and I'm like, good training moment. Let's train on this, and, or if something pops up that she problem solved, I jump in and I say, great problem solving. This is a new thing that you've never done before, and I think you handled it really well. And then I might, depending on what it is, obviously I might offer guidance for, might offer guidance for something else to do in the future. But, it's just, just do it, because it's definitely been eye-opening as far as what we can accomplish in our business. And then it's also forced us to kind of look at our systems and processes and find better ways.
I do think a virtual assistant, for me specifically, has made me a better business. I know I own a job. I have a system. The system may need to be tweaked and whatever. And there are things that, again, you're constantly evolving in our property management. But for me, having a virtual assistant allowed me to walk away. I don't have to worry about my business. And I tell people I only work 2 hours a week in the business as a broker, and they go, huh? And I'm like, it's because we've built our business around these things. And the systems weren't always perfect. That's the other thing that I try to tell people is like, done is better than perfect. Start someplace and let your VA come alongside you to help you with that, because they'll tell you where you're weak. I mean, very, very easily they'll say, well, I don't understand, or I need help, or they'll make a mistake. And so you just know, again, training moment, got to fix that process. So, well, Bess, thank you so much for being on with us today. I so just appreciate you as a person and as a colleague, and certainly as a client. And I'm just appreciative of the time that you spent with us today. So if you guys want to get in touch with Bess, her contact information is at the end of this video, and I look forward to you connecting with her. She's an amazing person. So thank you for your time today, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.